Breakneck through the Bible, 2017-2018, class number 15. Okay, so kind of was, my head is somewhere over between here and New York on an airplane, back and forth, the whiplash. So if I kind of wander off, just kind of Rabbi, so I have a wake up. Okay, no, I'm not a coffee drinker. Not a coffee drinker. Okay, so last week we're at the end of chapter 2. We're talking about the creation of a woman, right? Remember when we pointed out that everything in the Torah, the later was created, the more perfect was created, right? And so what was the last thing that was created? Woman, right? Woman was the last, right? Was the last being to be created, right? And again, man was created. What was man created from? Dirt, dust, right? And what was woman created from? Man, right? So, right, the best thing in the world. She was created from a man. Okay, right? Okay. She was created from a man, right? Her ingredients came from a higher order. They did not come from dirt. They actually came from man, right? And so, but since she's created, everything created later on in the process is considered, right? The later, more further on it is in the process, right? The more perfect it is, right? And that's why the world, creation of the world, ends off with the creation of man, right? Because everything in the world is just put there in order for man to use it to help serve God. And so therefore, what's greater, a man or a woman?
Woman.
The answer is it's irrelevant. A woman is created more whole. Well, again, so therefore she has, the more perfect we are created, right? Our job is to be the best that we can be. Irrelevant of measuring up to somebody else. You can't measure, just like you can't measure two people, right? Because everybody is created with their, right? Everyone is created with their own personalized strengths and weaknesses, right? Right? Those, right? That's, everyone has their piece that they need to do. So too, right? So too, man or woman, each one has to do what they want to do.
So they're both important equally? Or
very, they're both very equal.
Still more holier.
A woman might be more holier, but your job isn't to be more holier. Your job is to become more holier than you are. Right? You know, right? How you were born, right? When by the time you leave this world, your job is to become even greater, right? To be greater than what you are. Just like today, what is your job today?
Be holier than you were yesterday.
Right, to be holy, right? And holy, let's use the word more godly than you were yesterday, right? That's our job, right? The job today is more holy than we were yesterday. And what's going to be our job tomorrow?
To be holier than you were today.
Excellent, right? And our job is to be more holy than we were today, right? And so therefore, kind of going ahead and measuring up ourselves against anybody else is kind of is really, it's a exercise in futility. Right, because our job is to become the best that I can be, right, and that's our job, right. And so
question, sorry. What is your obligation to children?
What do you mean to children?
Man and woman get together to bring children.
That's one of the reasons they get together.
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah, only one.
That's one.
Right, let's say you're past childbearing age, and that's supposed to be married. Of course you are. Right, and so then, right. Our job
is irrelevant.
Correct.
My wife said it's not the age, but the stage that counts.
No, well, again, what?
The man is obligated to get married. The woman is not.
You know, so we said it right. The woman is obligated. She doesn't have a mitzvah. Right? God did not command her to get married, and one of the reasons is because she understands she's supposed to be married. A guy would never get married if he didn't have to. Right? But the guy doesn't understand, so he needs the commandment. The other reason is that a woman, right, having children is dangerous, and hence at that point in time, right, the Torah can't command somebody to put their life in danger, and so that's why she doesn't have a mitzvah. But obviously, a man has an obligation to marry a woman, right? Anything else besides a man marrying a woman is not called marriage. So then, at that point in time, a woman, of course, has to get married, right? So but she's not obligated as a mitzvah because it is dangerous to have children, and it'll be dangerous for her to go ahead and to have.
So that's why they feel better than men when they live alone.
Now, also it's interesting. A single woman fears better than a man being single, and the reason for that is a woman by her essence is created closer to the image of God. Okay, by essence, she's more of a giver since she's more of a giver, therefore, for her not to be married, right, isn't as hard it is for a man. Right? A man, and both being single is hard because what happens is the only person who you really worry about is
You yourself.
me, myself, and I. Right? All three of me, right? To make sure that I'm okay, right? And therefore we become self-centered, right? And that takes us away from being godly. A woman in her essence, right, is more of a giver than a man. And that's why it's quite fascinating. There is one limb that a woman has that a man does not have.
It's
Uterus. Right? It's uterus, right? And anyone know what a uterus is called in Hebrew? Doctor, it's important. You have to know this.
Well,
He's-
in most
Dr.
in
Licker is
most
a
languages-
urologist.
But in most languages, it's mother.
What?
Uterus has a relationship to mother.
You know what it is in Hebrew?
No.
It's called a rechem.
Raise-
Rechem. Reish ches mem. Right? It's called a rechem. Right? A woman in her essence is woman right is right. Rechem, which means womb. Okay? This is how, right? This is how, if you take a look, right? This is how you spell womb in Hebrew. Reish ches mem. What's fascinating is, how do you say mercy in Hebrew?
Racham.
Rachamim, right? Or,
Rachamim.
right, to be merachim, right? Which is, again, the same letters, right? Right? So it's rachim, which is mercy. The womb is connected to mercy. Why is it connected to mercy? Because having a child is the greatest mercy that you can do. Right? You're creating another child. So then that's why it's called rachmanas. Right? Or rechem, it's the same thing, but that's the essence of a woman is rachmanas, is mercy. And mercy is caring about somebody else and giving. Therefore, when she's more of an essence of a giver than a man is.
Okay, now this gets more complicated.
Yeah?
So a man is obligated to get married.
Yes.
A woman is
A
not.
man is obligated to get married to a woman. Right, okay?
A woman is not obligated to get married.
No.
She has a choice.
So, well,
more or less.
okay, choice is a bad word.
Does she want to reproduce?
No, well, she wants to. She wants to have a child more than a man wants to. She understands in essence what she's supposed to be doing.
But in the other hand, a man and woman cannot be together unless they are married.
Correct.
That's right.
So what's the problem?
That's another problem.
No, why is it? That's good.
So how could a man and woman be together with all these problems and issues that are in the middle of this whole thing?
What problems?
How can a man find a woman like this? Or a woman can find a man?
No. So you have to make sure that the woman and man are on the same page. What the purpose of getting married is.
So the first question you have to ask: you want to get married or not?
Why do you want to get married? That's the first question I always ask. Right? Why do we want to get married? It means
To give something to your partner.
what?
To be able to give to your partner.
Right, to give to your spouse. Right. It's all about the idea of giving. Right. The idea of giving.
Is that like taking care of your spouse?
Yes, that's one of the ways. Sure, in many ways. Right. Emotionally, spiritually, physically. Right. That's our obligation, is to take care of our spouse.
Every possible way.
Every possible way, and by doing that, we go ahead and we become a giver, and so we're emulating God.
Do you have to be thinking all the time about what she might need and anticipating what she might need?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Why is that a shock?
I'm shocked because I wasn't such a bad husband.
In today's time, a lot of women, they have careers, they
Right.
have a life, they even have a better life than a man does.
Okay.
And a lot of them don't want to get married. It's just-
That
that's the reality of times today.
is a terrible disease
Yeah.
in our lifetime.
And they also
It's funny. It's backwards. You see, we thought by training our children, our girls, to be self-sufficient, that'll be a good thing. The problem is is that at that point in time it's taken away from them the desire / my need to want to be married, right, which is the greatest tragedy of all.
They are financially independent.
Right. No. There was a mutual need that was created, and today we're learning to be so totally independent, each on our own, that at the end of the day, that people aren't getting married because they have no reason to. Right, and that's taking away the greatest accomplishment, right? The greatest goals of a person's life.
So how are we supposed to find Moshiach?
It's going to be tough, right? So, but our goal is to understand that marriage is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us, and so therefore, and it's interesting. We as well as all the animal kingdom, we human beings need companionship. Right? Okay. Right. We need to have a companion.
Need, not a want.
It's a need.
Wow.
It's inherent need, but that's in order to keep us that we go ahead and that we're going to, right, to need one another, right, to create our godliness, right, to create as great as we can become, right, in our striving for holiness. And I'm striving to be God-like. That's why it's created. And then God, in order to drive this point home, this is what we talked about last week, was that God cannot change his mind, right? One of the definitions of God is that he cannot change his mind. And therefore, the question is, then why did God originally create man and woman as one being, and then separate them into two? If our job is to be two, right? Then create us originally as two. If our job is to be one, then create us one. Why split us into two? And we answered that God wanted to tell us that the goal is to become one, which is why he created us originally as one. But then what happened was he went ahead and he said, right, but if I keep you as one and make you totally self-centered, so then at that point in time, when you become totally self-centered, then you're going to become a taker, then you're going to be a taker, not a giver, and then you won't be godlike. So I'm going to split you into two. I'm going to tell you to go ahead and to learn to get married, go to find someone you can give to, and by giving to them, you become one.
Okay,
and therefore you're the best of both worlds. You become the one, right, as well as you do it by giving rather than by taking.
Okay, but there's always somebody for somebody, right?
Yes. As my wife's grandmother says, for every pot, there's a top. Okay?
So at the end, they will all find them?
No. That's where your free will comes in. Actually, in last week's Torah portions, actually, was interesting, is a Torah portion of the splitting of the Reed Sea. And splitting the Sea says that finding a soulmate for a person is as hard as the splitting of the Reed Sea. And they said, what has God been doing since he created the world? He says he's been making shidduchim. They're making matches. And so I always say, well, what's harder, splitting of the Reed Sea or making marriages? I actually say making marriages is harder. Why? Because by marriage you have two people that have their own free will. And so therefore you have to take two people with their own free will who want to do their own things, and you have to go ahead and you have to create them, right, and turn them into one. Right? And that's something that's very, very hard. Right? People like doing what they're doing, right?
Yeah, but for God, nothing is hard.
What? Right, except that of course, he could say, you're going to marry so-and-so and take away your free will. Except what makes us human is that we have free will. So he's going to keep your free will. Now you're going to have to go ahead and you have to use your free will to go to choose to do the right thing. So even though God might give you the perfect spouse for you, what are you going to say?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You're going to say, you know what's going to happen? What's going to happen like this. Very simple. You're going to say, she's too fat, he's bald, right? He's not my knight in shining armor that I always dreamed I was going to marry, right? We're going to go ahead and we're going to start going ahead and we're going to start giving all the reasons in the world why this is not my right match. And then one day, After 120 years, you're going to come up to God and you're going to say, God, can't believe it, you didn't give me my match. He said, I gave you your match like 14 times. Except every time you came up with another stupid reason why that wasn't the right one for you. Right? Meaning before you say no, before you go ahead and say, this one's not for me, or yada yada you, guess what? Better make sure, right, that the reason that what the reason you're saying no is a good reason. Right? And so before you even go out, you really have to figure out, why do I want to get married? What's my goals? And what are the things that are important? And why are they important? Right? And to learn how they should be important, right? And what is important to me, right? And if they're real, or whether they're just things that are really kind of just silly things that really don't matter much. Right? And so how much stock they put in things that don't matter too much.
Yeah.
Right? And so learning how to do that is really very, very important.
But this doesn't apply to animals.
Correct. Because animals don't have to be married.
But they still produce.
Absolutely. But they don't need to be married. There's all sorts of animals. Some mate one per season. One mate, whatever happens to be around. Some mate for life. A few mate for life. A dove is one of those who mate for life. By the way, which is why a dove, D-O-V-E.
Oh.
That's why in the Tanakh, right, who is used? What is the example of, right? We are called Yonah, right? God calls us in I think Shir Song of Song. God calls us a dove, right? Because that a dove mates for life. In fact, actually on Shabbat, in the Shabbat morning, one of these songs, right, one of the Zmiros, one of the Shabbat songs that we sing is Yonah Matzah Bo Manoach, a dove found in it rest, and there to rest at those of weariness, right? And we use the idea of a dove because a dove mates for life, and the Jewish people and God is a mate for life, and that's supposed to be right. And so therefore, right, it's that idea of having a soul mate, right, being the one that is. And so it's just important just to make sure that that when we do this, that we're doing it for the right reasons, right? And to make sure that we're making the right decisions, and not for any frivolous or silly reasons. And the sad part is, from my unscientific survey, but from a lot of anecdotal evidence, most reasons that most matches don't work out have nothing to do with substance.
They said that the rate of divorce is 67% now.
Of course. Very simple. Because why do people get married? People get married to become takers. And so that's the opposite reason why we're supposed to get married. So I'm surprised that 33% stay together. Except you don't know how many of those 33% are miserable. They're just too lazy to get divorced, or whatever reason is. But the problem is that marriage, we're taught, is that it's what's in it for me. It's all about me.
Yeah.
Right? Why do I want to get married? Well, this person just makes my life complete. I'm a better person when that person's around. All the reasons to be a taker. And then you get married, and what happens? You realize what happens. You get married, and then you realize that you spend a lot of time in pain. And most of my marriage is spent in pain. It's much more, and if it's all about me, why should I put myself through so much pain when the times of pleasure are small and fleeting? And so that's why they get married. And so now they got married for the wrong reasons. So of course it's not going to work out.
So by that premise, marriage and independence are not mutually exclusive, because if you take two independent people and you put them together, they can give more to each other.
Correct. Right? It's what do you want to do with your independence?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's what do you want to accomplish? What am I here for? And what am I supposed to be accomplishing? Once I understand that, then life can move on. Right? But till I get to that, it's bad news. Right? Till I get to that place, it's right. We put ourselves through a lot of needless pain because we don't understand how the world is supposed to work. Right? And we want to know why when we take a fork and we're trying to dig a hole, why the hole isn't being dug. right? I forget something called the shovel. Right? And the shovel will certainly work better than your fingers. Right? Then you turn around and you say, I'm supposed to dig a hole in the ground, and yet I broke my fingers trying to dig a hole. You say, you're an idiot. Use a shovel. Right? So we have to understand what life is for and what our job is. Right? And that's why God, when He creates marriage, what does He say? What's the most important thing to understand? What's the goal of marriage? To give, right? To become godly, right? To bring us back to one.
So,
Yeah.
so you said that we need to serve God.
Yes.
That's our job.
Yeah.
But a man and woman needs to serve God together.
Absolutely. And together, they're
That's
stronger
what
than
completes
each.
the whole scenario.
Here we go. They're stronger, right? They're stronger
But
than
the
each one
woman doesn't
independently.
understand that. The woman.
What are
she
you
has
talking
a
about?
choice.
She has a choice, and the guy has a choice. And we both have choices. And so we need to go ahead. We need it. That's what's called getting married.
But the woman knows that she needs to reproduce. That's the whole point of marriage.
And no, that's not the whole point of marriage. That's one of the points of marriage. And that's why she would get married, because she understands it intrinsically.
But the animal doesn't think like that.
Of course not. The animal doesn't think. The animal is programmed. He does exactly what he's programmed to do. They're very good at that. They listen to their programmer. But that God has no big deal. Right? Because angels listen to what God tells them to, and animals listen to what God tells them to do. We human beings think we're smarter than God, so we're going to tell God what we want to do. Right? Instead of listening to what God wants to tell us to do. Right? And then we understand. And all God wants, and why does God want us to listen to Him?
Okay,
Bless
so,
us.
What?
To bless us.
To bless, right? Because it's better for us. We're better off listening to God.
so a man's ultimate job is to find a partner and serve God.
Okay, I switch it around. A man's ultimate job is to serve God. Finding a mate is one of those pieces that are part of that.
Oh, so there's different pieces that needs to go.
And then we're supposed to go together, right? But that's how the world is created. And the faster we do that, right? The smarter we are. So God goes ahead and God creates us originally as one. Tells us to go ahead and to become. My job is to go ahead and to go get married, right? Go find our other mate, right? Our other half, and then at that point in time, when we find our other half, then everything will be amazing, right? And again, and what happened was, so God decides, He tells man He's going to give him a helpmate. As soon as He says that, then He goes ahead and brings all the animals to man. So man then figures out that he's missing his helpmate. Because we said the first thing that a guy has to understand is that without a wife, he is lacking and he is missing. And then at that point in time, only then could he give him a wife, because he won't appreciate her then beforehand. Okay, and then we go ahead and then we pick up on verse 21. So page 15, chapter 2, verse 21. Okay, Boris, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So Hashem, God, cast a deep sleep upon the man, and he slept. And He took one of the sides, and He filled in the flesh in its place. Then Hashem, God, fashioned the side that He had taken from the man into a woman. And He brought her to man.
Okay, hold on. He brought it to man.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what the name of this woman is? Chava.
Ish.
Isha.
No, I failed.
Okay, let's read. Okay.
She doesn't have a name yet.
Hold on. What is the name?
He's Isha and she's Isha.
What?
Isha is her name.
Okay, 1 second. What is the name of this woman? Chava. Okay, if you think it's Chava, raise your hand. Okay, put your hand down. If you think it's Isha, woman, raise your hand. Okay, excellent. The answer is woman, Isha. When do we hear the name Chava?
After they eat from
After they eat from the tree, at the end of chapter 3, right? Then at that point in time, if you turn to chapter 3, right, turn to page 19, right? So chapter 3, verse 20, right? So this is after they sin, right? Okay, so page 19, chapter 3, verse number 20.
Called his wife's name Eve. Because she had become the mother of all living.
Only in chapter 3, verse 20, does she turn into Chava. She turned into Eve. At this point in time, before she sins, what does she become?
Isha.
She's Isha. And why does she get her name changed? Why did she get her name changed?
Because she sinned?
Okay.
She changed her name or God changed her name?
Adam changed her name. What does it matter, by the way, let's do this question like this. Why does man name all the animals? So we said, when man named all the animals, it says, as he named him, right? The Torah says, as he named him, right? In verse number 19. Now Hashem God had formed out of the ground chapter 2, verse 19. Now Hashem God had formed out of the ground every beast of the field and every bird of the sky, and brought them to the man to see what he would call each one. And whatever the man called each living creature, that remained its name. It means that man, when he called them by their names, at that point in time, those names were the essence of that animal. And so that's what he did. So the essence of man, right? Okay, the essence of man is Ish. The essence of woman is Isha.
Question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So God created the world and he introduced the world to Adam.
Correct.
And he said, Adam, this is horse, this is dog.
No,
this
no,
is
no, no,
cow."
no, 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 no. No, that's not what it says. Okay, that's the way you thought it said. How was he? Now he brought each animal to man, and man, right? Adam was such a great man, right? He was able to see into the essence of what every animal was, and he went ahead and he called it by its name.
He didn't try to hunt them?
No, not at all. He couldn't kill them. He could only kill an animal as an offering to God. If he found roadkill, he can eat them, but he wasn't on the menu. Remember, man's menu was vegetable and fruit and roadkill.
So the
Okay, you
animal-
cannot kill an animal for eating. The only time it became permissible for a man to kill an animal to eat was after the flood.
So the animal had respect for the man and man had respect for the animal.
What is it? Respect? Oh, hold on. I don't know. I mean, the animal had understood that it was what a human was. It wouldn't
How come
touch
the animal
human.
didn't hunt him?
Why an animal? Because an animal that wasn't on the animal's purview, that wasn't on his menu, wasn't his program. An animal was not allowed to eat a human being. An animal recognized that a man has a tselem Elokim, has an image of God, so an animal can't touch that. Now sometimes you have human beings that lose their image of God, and then the animals will go ahead and might eat that person, because then they no longer distinguish that person between, he looks like an animal to them.
So before Noah's time, everything was so beautiful.
Absolutely correct. Now, I want to show you something amazing. So he called her Isha, woman. Okay, he called her woman. Now listen to this. Why was she called woman? What does Chava mean? Eve. What does Eve mean? Eve means the mother of all living. Right? Because after she sinned and brought death to the world, at that point in time, a woman's job became that she has to make sure there's a people, these human beings. So therefore, her name became woman. Her name became Chava because the job became the mother of all living. Okay? Before then, what was her job? Her job was to be the Isha, to be the woman. Now, I'm going to show you one of the most important things you'll ever learn about marriage. Watch carefully. And for all our friends that are watching this online, I apologize because it's coming up a little backwards in how I write this. So I'm not sure that you can see what it is, but it goes like this. Man is called Ish. How do you write Ish? Aleph, Yud, Shin. This is man. How do you write woman?
Isha.
Isha. Aleph, Shin, Hey. Woman. Man, woman. Do you notice something about these two words?
It's a high.
Yeah, you lose the yud.
They both have two letters in common, an aleph and a shin. A man has a yud, a woman has a hey. If you put the yud and the hey together, what do you get?
God.
God's name. So a man and a woman, each one of us have half of the ingredient to get to God.
So that means we're supposed to be together.
That's what I'm telling you this whole last hour. Yeah, we're on the same page now. Okay, I'm glad we're communicating.
Pay attention.
Okay. If we're together and we do it right, we create Yud and Hey, we create God's name. If we take a marriage and we remove God from the marriage, you kick out the Yud and you kick out the Hey,
You get fire.
you get Aish, which is fire. What's fire? Destruction. So what I call that is, you go ahead and you get passion. And then that passion is fire, goes ahead, gets burnt out, and by the time you're said and done, you are toast. Literally. Okay? So your marriage lasts, your passion lasts 6 months. 6 months down the road, it's all embers. Dying, 2 years later, divorce. Yes.
For example,
Yeah.
let's imagine me and you be a partner. Man is I'm the woman, you're the man.
Okay.
I'm the man, you're the woman.
Okay.
I ask you to bring me a coffee.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to say?
It depends. Why do you want the woman to bring you
We're
coffee?
supposed to be
Partners.
correct?
Right. So why does she need to bring you a coffee?
She's my
Why don't you
woman.
bring-
She's my woman.
Correct. So why aren't you bringing her coffee in bed?
Wrong century.
Let's say,
Isha not avodah.
let's say if I bring her the coffee,
Right. Good.
I might feel like I'm a man. I'm not supposed to do that.
Okay. No. So some people come from that culture, and in certain cultures that might be the accepted norm. Right. That might be that's what's done. It happens. Right. At the same time, in America today, they ain't gonna fly so fast. Right. Okay. Right. But the answer is like this. But it's really irrelevant. To me, all these things are really irrelevant. Because really, she could bring you a coffee, and you should bring her a coffee. Like that's.
But it's a give and take, isn't it? A give and take.
No, it's a give and give.
It's
Give
all
and
in the-
give?
it-
Yeah,
but it's
you
all-
give and then you go and give again.
It's in the approach. I mean, if you say, I'd really like to have some coffee, I'm going to make some, would you like some? And then she says, oh, I'll get you some.
Right. You could ask her, and it depends. It depends what you're doing. It depends what you're not doing. So flying home, and I had the privilege and pleasure of actually my wife coming with me. We went to this wedding together, and it was lovely. So, right, we spent more quality time in the airplane than we spent in a long time. Right, spent 5 hours each way. We weren't going to fly into LaGuardia. We're almost giving up on LaGuardia Airport till year 2024 when they finish all the construction there. We decided we're going to go into Newark, and we're going to fly Southwest. So it was going to be a connecting flight. Figured rather sit on the plane for an hour than try to fight through LaGuardia. So that's what we did. So we actually were on the plane, and so my wife says to me on the plane, she goes, "Do you mind?" Like this. She says, usually she does most of the work for Shabbat in the house. But she says this Friday morning, she's very busy. Okay, somebody's coming from out of town, she has to host somebody, and basically her whole Friday is gone. So she says, Bentzi, I'm going to need you to do all the things I normally do.
Boy, you don't know how to do it.
So I said, oh no. She said, is that okay?
I'm not coming Friday.
And actually, none of that. We're not even eating home. We're doing Shavuot Friday night. So this Friday night, we're not eating home. And so she goes, could you do that for me? And the answer was, it would be my greatest privilege.
Wow.
Right? Why? Because normally, right, in our division of labors in my home, right, this is kind of what happens. And normally she does these things, but now she can't do that. So I'm going to do it.
So let your daughters tell you what to do.
Yeah, no. It's actually fun. I'm going to tell Shani to stay home from school. No, okay, just kidding. That's where we're at, right? So of course I'm going to do that, right? And I don't consider it an affront to my manliness that I'm going to go and I'm going to help for Shabbos.
But her job is to serve man, isn't she?
Okay, let's go. Excellent. So let's go back.
You in trouble.
Norm, you're sitting next to him. I don't want you to catch this. Okay, so
I'm his trainer.
okay, in chapter 2, right, when it talks about this, right, verse 18. Let's go back to chapter 2, verse 18. Right, just so we could all be on the same page. Right, Hashem, God said, "It is not good that man be alone. I will make him a helper corresponding to him." So if you remember last week, I didn't express it as clearly as you're expressing it now. Right? So, no. I'm glad you bring it up because I want to make sure you have absolute clarity. Because by the time I finish we finish this lesson, I want you to know what your job is.
I just want to say something. This is what is really hurting the Jewish community.
It is. And it's not only the Jewish community, it's the world. Because the world has lost the reason of why we're supposed to get married and what the purpose of it is. And therefore, they're throwing marriage out the window. And people are less, at the end of the day, you take a look, you take a survey after survey after survey, people that are married are generally healthier, happier than other people that are not. You don't understand? And it's because, and it makes a lot of sense because, when you're skiing, when you ski on one ski, when you reach a bump, you fall off. When you have two skis, it kind of keeps you even keeled. Having a spouse, having a partner is one of the most wonderful gifts that Hashem has given us. And the world is taking it and throwing it aside for really no good reason. And so it's causing damage to themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like that's and what you're bringing up is all very good. And it says, I hope it used to be in the olden days. Okay, go back 50 years. Or go into other parts of the world today.
1980s, everything.
Right. Going back, not even leave America aside for a moment. Right? So it used to be that a man, he was the hunter-gatherer. He was the one that was protection and going to work outside because he was big and strong and tall. And that's what you needed to do. There's all the things. And the woman took care of the home. And therefore, the woman would bring the tea, the coffee to her husband because that was her domain. And he would go out hunting and do those things. Nowadays, the roles have become blurred. Okay, as society, because now no longer you have to be tall and and rough and tough. Now, a lot of brain things get going, and women are pretty smart. And so they go ahead and they could go ahead and they all of a sudden are going into fields, or they sometimes become the breadwinners, and the husband takes over the home. Every couple is unique in the way they handle all these things. At the end of the day, right, when it says that a woman is a helper, right, opposite him, right, we said that there's two ideas, right? So the Gemara has a few different understandings of this verse. And that one is that if the man is doing the right thing, she's supposed to be his helper. When he's doing the wrong thing, she's supposed to be opposite him. She's supposed to be his counterbalance to make sure he's on the right path. And a helper, we usually tend to make it that my secretary is my helper. So I'm getting married, my wife is my secretary. Okay, like I need her to go ahead and to run and make copies, so I need my wife to bring me a cup of coffee. Right? But that's the incorrect interpretation of the word helper. Right? When you go to a doctor, who is the helper? The doctor. Right? Not right. You're not the helper. The doctor is helping you. So just because a helper does not mean in a role of being subservient to the man, right? Depends in what case it is, what she's supposed to be. So helper means that they fly together. And the best example that I like to use what's more important, a pilot or a navigator?
Both are important.
Who's more important?
The navigator.
The navigator, if you want to get there.
Well, it depends. Because if you only have a navigator, your plane ain't going to take off. And if you have a pilot without a navigator, you'll take off and you'll never land.
That's right.
Okay? You'll end up somewhere in the middle of the...
You'll end up nowhere.
you'll really run out of gas and you'll crash and you'll burn. So both of those, either without a pilot and without a navigator, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the way the Torah really has set up is very fascinating. Is that in the home, generally the way the Torah has set it up, right? And again, but they could switch. And nowadays, right, but the wife is the pilot at home, and the husband is the navigator. And then in the outside world, the husband is the pilot and the woman is the navigator. Okay? They work as partners in this deal.
That used to be true.
What?
That was true.
You know, that's how it was set up. Right? That's really because you have to have somebody take the lead and somebody who's running it. Right? That's right. What happens when you have two people in charge of something? Nothing gets done. Right? Because two people doesn't help. Right? So you have, but that's the way it's set up. Normally, if you have a reason to change, it could change. It's not a problem. I used to pay the bills in my family. And then, a few years ago, my wife decided to start paying the bills. You know why?
She stopped you from paying the bill?
You know, she started paying the bills.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
She was afraid the electricity was going to get turned off. You know, by the time I got around to getting the bill, right, I had a lot of things going on, so she said, I'll do it. I said, fine, do it. Here's the checkbook, enjoy it.
But that's a good thing. That means
Absolutely.
You trust her,
Right.
and you have one common goal.
Absolutely. And when you look
Keep
for a
the lights
spouse,
on.
that's the job. That's what you're looking for. To have common goals. Right? And to go ahead and to understand that it's all about becoming godlike. Right? And that there's a goal and a vision in which we're both going for. And that's what God says. I'm going to go ahead and to do that. And even to kind of make sure we drive the point home. God says, in your name, I'm going to show it to you. Right? A man is called Ish. And I'm going to put the Yud of my name in there. And a woman is called Isha. I'm going to give her the Hey of my name. And the Yud and the Hey are the two letters in which God created the world. And he says, I'm going to give each of you half of it. And your job is to go and to use them together to create godliness. And if you create godliness, it's an amazing thing. If you don't, you're going to have a train wreck. And that's what he goes at. He says over here, right? So, right? And he brought it to man. She brought Isha to the man. Because that was what her name was. Right? And so now he brought it to the man. So verse 23, go ahead.
Okay.
Verse 23.
So he brought
Brought it to the
the
man.
man, and the man said, "This time it's a bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. This shall be called woman, for from man was she taken. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh."
Okay, stop over here. What does it mean that therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh?
It's time to
As
say
a
goodbye.
child, you're a taker.
Ah.
As a husband, you're a taker.
Very good.
What'd she
Right?
say?
Therefore, a man, what is the relationship of a child to his parents?
Taker.
A child is a taker. Right? Mom and dad takes care of me. Right? So God says, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother. What does that mean, leave his father and mother? Stop being a taker. Right? And what is his job? Right? And cling to his wife. And how do you cling to your wife? What do? You give her, right? By giving. Right? And the more you give to her, you leave the idea of being a taker, and now you start becoming a giver and you become godly. And that becomes your job. Your job is now that you are becoming godly. Right? So you're leaving your father and your mother, you're leaving the relationship of being a taker, and now you're becoming a giver. And what happens when you become a giver?
Become more godly.
You become more godly, and what happens?
Become more right.
Become one flesh. You go ahead and you mold yourselves into becoming that one being. Right? You're going ahead, you're taking the two halves of the soul. And when God split man and woman, he took the soul that was in man and he split it into two, a male half and a female half. And so now your job is to take that male half, that female half, and to merge them together and to become one. How do you merge them together? By going ahead and by giving to each other. When you create the relationship where you're going ahead and you're giving to each other, right? So then you are becoming one, right? And then at that point in time, then you can become one flesh, right? Right. So what happens? So what happens is by going ahead and by giving to each other, right? By going ahead and getting to the place of where now I am giving, right? They're giving one to another. The man to the woman and the woman to the man. Right? It's a relationship of giving. Right? When we create the idea of giving to one another. Right? Giving, and what does it mean to give to one another?
To become more godly.
to become more godly, right? But by giving, we become more godly.
You become a better person.
Right? You become a better person. You become a godly person, right? So, but you giving, right, means by emotionally, spiritually, right? You're going ahead and you're doing things that are all the idea of going ahead into giving one to another, right? And then at that point in time, and then ultimately, then the ultimate expression of becoming one, right, of joining together, becoming one, is when you actually go ahead and you're intimate with your wife or with your husband. So then at that point in time, then you go ahead and you bring the physical halves together into one. In fact, it's actually quite interesting. How do you say soul in Hebrew? Neshama. Neshama is your soul. Anyone know what the word for your breath? Breath. Neshima. Neshima is a breath, right? So you know the idea of a breath and a soul are the same word. Right? The same letters. Same letters, right?
We learned that when God breathed into Adam.
Right, when God breathed into Adam, he breathed into him a soul. He blew into his nostrils, and neshima, a breath, and a soul. And that's actually why when a husband and wife are together, they create a new soul, right? We talk about they create a new soul every time they're together, whether this is a physical child or not. They create a spiritual child. But not only that, they're supposed to kiss mouth to mouth. Because why? Because their breath intermingles, and the two neshimas, the two halves of the soul, become a neshama. Right? They to come back and they become one soul. And that's this idea, right, of to go ahead and to give to one another at that point in time, right? This idea of becoming one. Right? See, people in America think you start off physically and then it ends up spiritually and emotionally. And they got it all backwards, right? You start off spiritually and emotionally, and that then it gets to physically to becoming one. One second. Okay.
Do we know the reason why God didn't need to tell a woman to leave her mother and father and cling to her husband?
I don't know. It's actually interesting. Normally, right, the normal way marriage used to be, right, the woman would leave her home and come into the husband's home. Right, so the husband would be by his parents. Right, so that was she couldn't stay with her parents, right? She was gone. Right, and that's why, right? But again, the same idea I would say as before is that a woman understands it intrinsically. Right? It's the guys that have a hard time. Right? A woman inherently understands what the world is supposed to look like.
Oh, so could it also partly be because mothers are so clingy to their sons that
could be. Yeah,
I think she's got a good point. I think it's so the woman could be tortured by a mother-in-law.
No.
I was blessed with a great daughter-in-law, but if I weren't, it would be very difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It came that we understood as men had to take a responsibility in a certain time.
Sure.
Because back to old time, the parents don't want to let you go.
Right.
And so at a certain age, so you have to go and take a responsibility and create life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. You see, that's the thing. That's why, I can't drive this home enough. Women understand inherently that they're supposed to get married and have children. Right? It's something like that's what they don't have commandments. They don't need commandments. They know that that's what's supposed to be. It's the guys that have the harder time. Right? And it's because we enjoy being takers. Why do we enjoy being takers?
They're selfish.
Because we're babies, right? Right. It's right. Why? Because it tastes good, right? What does growing up mean?
Becoming a giver.
Growing up means giving up the short-term pleasures for long-term goals. Right? You really can't eat candy all the time because you're going to lose your teeth. Right? You're following, right? Right? That's growing up is called delaying the gratification, your short-term gratification, for longer-term, greater pleasures. Right? And so that's really what how it's set up to be, is that we go ahead in the world is that to get rid of the short-term pleasures and to go ahead and to understand that it's more about long-term, right? Long-term pleasures that are way, way more pleasurable than the short-term pleasures.
So every time men and women are together, then they create, regardless, it will be child after that.
Correct. They create a spiritual child.
They create a spiritual
Even
child.
as spiritual.
They
When a
bring
person,
every time a soul.
right, sure. When a person gets upstairs to heaven, all those souls are going to come out to greet them.
So it's a spiritual child.
So that's why you have to make sure that every time that you're creating a soul, that you're doing it with proper spiritual intent. If you do it for the wrong reasons, then at that point in time, you might not be so pleased upon your arrival when you actually get a chance to see them, to see the monsters you've created. Right? So it's really it's a scary thought. Yeah.
Continuing that thought, are they all watching us?
The souls?
Everybody.
Meaning the world and the souls, do they have? Could they know? They know what's going on in this world.
Do they really?
Sure.
Really?
Sure. Why do you look so surprised?
Well, I don't know. I thought when I would get there, I would talk to them. But
You will.
yeah,
But they know what's going on.
they already know everything.
Yeah, it's pretty. And I don't know. There's some things they don't. The Gemara seems to. Again, from what I understand, there's some places the Gemara seems to say they do know. Some places, but not all the time. It's more complicated, but they certainly can know.
So the term, your parents are turning over in their grave, is there
There's
hip
some truth to
on what's
that.
going
Absolutely, sure.
So they really are turning over their grave.
Well, if you're learning Torah now, they're actually turning over the good way,
Okay.
clockwise now.
Okay, so
Right, when you learn Torah, right, that's what happens. Right, when you learn Torah, right, I once told somebody who had become religious. I said, you should know, in heaven, I said, they're making a big party for your parents right now. I said, you should know, in heaven, and they're making a special party for you. Not because of what you're doing.
What if you're not doing so good?
It's not such a nice party.
No candles?
Thank you. Well
Is that
said.
the essence of it?
Yeah, sure.
How about-
Because we leave over in this world. Man, what do we leave behind?
Children, hopefully.
Children, right?
Deeds.
Deeds. Right? It's right. If you take a look, right, Parshas Noah. Remember when it starts over with Parshas Noah, what does it tell us about? What does the Torah tell me about Noah?
He was righteous.
This is how it starts off. These are the descendants of Noah. Noah was a righteous man.
Does it say in his time?
He was in his generation.
In his generation.
Right? And then it goes, Shem Cham and Yafes. Right? And then it tells us the name of his children, but it says these are the descendants of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. So Thomas says, what do you mean Noah was a righteous man? Right? It says these are the descendants of Noah. It should say Shem Cham and Yafes. And the name of his 3 sons. It doesn't say that. So these are the descendants of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. What do we leave behind? We leave behind our deeds. So like this. I'll show it to you in another way. When do we get judged?
when do we get judged? We get judged all the time.
We have three times. There are 3 times to get judged. Number 1, we get judged on Rosh Hashanah. Number 2, we get judged when we die. And number 3, and listen carefully, every Rosh Hashanah, we get judged again,
Even after we're dead.
even after we're dead. Even and dead is the wrong word. Even after our souls have left this world. Okay, 3 times. Why do we get judged every Rosh Hashanah?
Because the Torah starts in Rosh Hashanah.
You know, for all the everything we've done in the past year. So we need to now, right, collect our reward, right? Okay, we get judged. We get judged when we die. Why do we get judged when we die?
That's the ultimate.
That's our entire lives, right? Why do we get judged every Rosh Hashanah? If we already judge when we die, why do we get judged in Rosh Hashanah?
Because your soul never gives
That's
up.
very good.
Your soul never dies.
Okay, so but you got judged when you died.
Yeah.
And the soul in the next world, there's nothing that it can do. It doesn't have any free will.
You can't do anything wrong.
So what? Right. So why do you get judged?
Remind you of your past life.
No.
Your deeds are living on.
The answer is all the people that you have touched for good and for bad. You have interest accrued over the course of that year. And so every Rosh Hashanah, you get judged again based on the deeds that you left behind.
So if your children are doing good things during the year, you get judged.
You get
And
elevated.
if they're doing not such good things, you get demoted.
But not only your children.
But all your friends,
Oh, yeah. Or your friends, or your people. I'll tell you a story. Actually, a fascinating story. Happened with the Rabbi here in Dallas. He was here for a couple of years, and one day a guy walks into his struggling synagogue and says, I want to donate and want to help you to build a Sunday school. So the rabbi says, I don't know you. What are you doing here? In a nice way. I think it was after he cashed the check. No. Okay. Okay. Right. So that guy came in and he says, this is what we want to do. He says, why do you want to do that? He says, I'll tell you why. I just came back from a trip to Israel, and I was very taken by it. I went to the Western Wall, and I saw this man coming and praying and pouring his heart out to God. And I came back and I said, if I can't do this, at least let me make it that if this guy ever comes to Dallas, we'll have a place to go. I asked my friends, where would this guy go? And he said, he would go to a synagogue like yours. And he would be after an Orthodox synagogue. He said, so I want to give you this money in order to help the synagogue continue. Never said, okay. Now, I want to turn this story around. This pious Jew who went to the Western Wall that night, he comes home and his wife says to him, "Nu dear, how was your day?" He says, "Wonderful." He said, "Did anything special happen?" And he says, "No, normal day." Unbeknownst to him, hundreds of people are learning Torah today because of his one action that he did that night. And when he gets to heaven, he's going to go ahead and he's going to get rewarded for all the things that he had, for all the mitzvahs that have been done through his one action that it caused.
wow.
So don't just think that it's your children. Some people don't have children. It's the deeds we leave behind. And we all have deeds we leave behind. Hopefully, mostly for the good, and not so much for the bad. But every time we do something, understand we leave behind a repercussion. And those ripples go on and on, really all the way for eternity. Right? Through our actions that we've done. And so therefore, every Rosh Hashanah, all souls in the entire world are rejudged. Why? because this credit that hopefully we've accrued over the year, I want to make sure that we don't lose that credit. And we get rewarded for that credit.
So it must be done over and over again. It cannot be done once when the people depart and get judged
Right,
at that
sure.
time. Why it cannot be all finished and summed up at that time just once? And it must be perpetually.
Why? Because it didn't happen yet.
Huh?
It didn't happen yet, those good deeds.
So
It's futures.
It's giving a
Without
chance. So the soul gets a chance.
Right, right.
The soul gets a chance to get credit for good deeds, which are
Future good
done
deeds.
on behalf of the soul.
Yeah. Yeah. We're leaving an imprint behind of what we've done, of what we've touched. Yeah.
Isn't it also the reason why it has to happen every year through eternity is because we have free will? So that good deed that man did, until that person uses their free will to do good with it, it hasn't happened yet.
Correct. Right. Now, okay, right. That's what I said. That was what I told Boris. Is that God knows what's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Right. So that's exactly what takes place.
So this is a very worrisome scenario. Because if God is keeping score, I can only speak for myself. I don't know why he's
It's all right,
been
nobody
giving
can
me
stand it.
such a break because
You maybe haven't been living up to what you could have been.
that is exactly right.
Okay, so two things. Number one, you're not allowed to tell lashon hara about yourself. Right? You can't tell bad speech about yourself. So I don't believe that at all.
But what if
Okay,
it's absolutely true?
That's what lashon hara is, only on the truth. Otherwise, you'd be a slanderer. And I think you're more a slanderer than telling the truth because I happen to know you know wonderful guy you are. But let me tell you the way out of it. And I'm going to tell you the way out. Listen carefully. I'm going to take your entire life now. I'm going to clean it like this. When we do something, when we go ahead, and we do an action that we're not proud of. Some we might even be embarrassed about. Some might even be ashamed about.
All of the above.
We all have them. Don't worry about it. Not you. You're a very fine, upstanding individual. When we do, God gave us this most incredible gift called tshuva, which means that we're able to return to God and to wipe away our sin and to make it as if it never happened.
Expunge it.
Expunge it, thank you. Expunge it from the record. It's completely wiped away. It never happened. When we do tshuva. 4-step process. Regret what we did. Stop doing it. Pray to God. If you did sin against somebody, you have to ask the person who we sinned against. But pray to God to forgive us and never do it again. And they say we're not going to do it again. Do those 4 steps, the sin never happened. It doesn't exist. You're going to Google search it, it won't show up. Nothing.
RSTP.
Mate, it's gone. That's a gift from Hashem called tshuva that is beyond anything we can imagine. Now, there's one step even further. God says there's a way to turn your sins into mitzvahs. So not only will you wipe it away that it never happened, they actually will be converted to solid gold bricks that you will have. How? So God says like this. It depends why you're doing tshuva. If you're doing teshuvah, repentance, returning to God, because you're afraid of God. A very good reason. Right? We're going up to heaven and we know we're going to meet him and like, holy shoot, what did I do? And how was I crazy enough to do what I did? And therefore, God, please forgive me. I am so sorry. You expunge it from your record. Won't be found anywhere. Now, if you do it, not because you're afraid God's going to smack you in the head, but you recognize that you create a relationship with God in this world, and that's why we're here in this world, to create a relationship with God. And you recognize that you've damaged the relationship, and you love God so much that you want to go ahead and you want to repair that relationship. When you do tshuva, because of that, you do repentance because you can't bear the thought of being separated from God, then those sins not only are not expunged, they're turned into merit. We're doing tshuva out of love. And our job in this world is to do tshuva out of love. Okay? And that's the goal. Yeah.
I'm going to use Moshe as an example. He was found in the river. He was brought up by the Egyptians. He ended up being with a woman. He didn't do a proper Jewish life, but eventually he became a prophet.
Right.
He didn't do a teshuvah.
Sure, okay, you didn't, well, hold on.
God
No.
spoke to him.
Hold on.
He was
You talk about Moses in the Bible? The story of Exodus. Okay, no. We have two different
He
stories.
didn't do teshuvah.
What teshuvah for what?
He did sins too. He
Did
went
he?
to the Egyptian woman.
Where was he with an
He
Egyptian
killed
woman?
a man.
Oh yeah, sure, he killed a man. A man who was going to killing a fellow Jew. He gets lots of mitzvahs for killing that Egyptian.
It was not a.
Right? Hold on, one second. I want to defend Moshe. You know why I want to defend Moshe? I want to tell you why.
I'm sorry.
No. It's a good question, but I'll tell you why I like defending Moshe.
But eventually
You know,
he became a prophet.
I'm going to hold on.
He
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why I like defending Moshe. When I get upstairs after 120 years, Moses is going to come over me and say, "Thank you, Bentzi." He says, "What can I do for you?" So I say, "Well, I'm about to go into court with God. I need a defense attorney. Do you mind coming with me?" And I'll have to say yes. So I'm very happy. Just keep it up. Oh no, okay. So
Court defender.
okay. So the answer is like this.
But I'm saying basically nobody's 100% perfect.
Okay, that's for sure. We don't have saints.
What?
In Judaism, we don't have saints.
Moshe,
We have righteous people. All righteous people, right? What do they say? All righteous, any person in land that lives and doesn't sin. To sin is to be human. There's not a problem to sin. God knows we're going to sin. There are 4 people in the world, by the way, that died without sin. But everyone else has sinned. And there's nothing wrong. Don't quote me out of context. There's nothing wrong with sinning. It's human. We all sin. We try not to. But we're human. We're going to mess up.
yeah.
But if we don't do tshuva, if we don't accept responsibility for it and try to rectify it, that's the problem.
But Moshe never did teshuvah.
But for what? I'll give you an example. I'll tell you something that Moshe
He was
said.
Egyptian.
Hold on. I'll tell you the sin that Moshe
He's
did.
supposed to be like them.
No. He's not. He was a Jewish boy.
Yeah, he was.
He
brought
knew
up
he was
right.
Jewish.
He was brought up right.
His mother, Batra, the Egyptian princess that came to save him, by the way, had converted. Right? She went down to the river. When she went down to the river, she went down to convert to Judaism. The day she found Moses. She was a closet Jew. She raised Moses. Right? She raised Moses. Right? Moses was a righteous man. He went out to his brothers. He looked at the Jewish people as his brothers. He went ahead and he did tremendous things. I'll give you an example where he sinned. When the Torah says he sinned, and it's not even. I'll tell you what it says just because you probably learned it this way, but it's not right. By hitting the rock instead of speaking to the rock. Remember at the end of the 40 years, right?
Yes.
And so Moses says, I prayed 515 times to God to forgive me. 515 times did I pray to rectify that sin. 515 times. I'm a great man. When I sin, I say, God, sorry, and I move on. Once, maybe twice. 515 times, ask God to forgive you. And that's what Moses does. 515 times. He asked God to forgive him. Moses was a great man. Sure, he was human. He's a human, but and by the way, as a human, he rose to the greatest heights that a human being could rise to. Right? God spoke to him different than he was the father of all prophets. Right? His level of revelation that God appeared to him was beyond anything we can ever imagine.
Can we have someone better than Moses?
Yeah,
someday?
absolutely.
Somebody.
And of course, no, I'll tell you why. Because Moses was born with certain pluses and minuses. And those pluses and minuses, he rose to the heights that he became. But each one of us have our own, what I call pekel, right? Our own package that we carry around.
Pekala.
So
And our job is to take our pekala, right, our package, and based on who we are and what we are, to become the best person we can
So
become.
we could have some kind of savior tomorrow. All of a sudden.
Tonight. Absolutely. That's I'm waiting. That's what's the Mashiach?
He's going to make.
Mashiach is somebody who is Mashiach means anointed one, right? He's anointed by God. He's anointed by Elijah the prophet to be the next king of Israel. And when he comes, he's going to save the Jewish people. Yeah.
Okay. When last time I took this course, you said that Tshuva was RSVP. Regret, stop, verbalize, and pray.
Right.
Okay. So I just thought I'd throw that out. But I have a question, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this is kind of a trivial question.
You could do tshuva for it later.
Okay. It seems like everything in the Torah is in this poetic language. Like here, it could have just said, therefore, a man will stop being a taker and become a giver by becoming one with his wife.
Right.
It doesn't say it that way. It says it in this beautiful language. Why is this Torah so poetic? Why is it indirect when it could be so direct?
Why? Okay. Because there are many levels of understanding in it, and that's why. So there are many lessons to be learned from here.
So this is not the only lesson.
Right? No, sure. We could spend our entire life on this verse and learn all that, and still won't get a drop in the bucket to all the lessons to be learned.
So this is an infinite book.
It's an infinite book, and every line is infinite. Every word is infinite.
It's God's book.
It's God's book. It's right. It's right. It's the most physical form that God can take. And it's everything here is infinite.
The first word of the Ten Commandments is the word Anochi.
Anochi, right?
And I was taught by another rabbi that means that I and my soul have I given and written.
Okay.
It's an
acronym,
yeah,
right?
An acronym. So is that right?
It sounds nice. Like it's in right, Anochi,
Ani,
Ani, Neshama,
my soul.
Neshama soul.
Yeah.
Written Ksivo, Kosev.
Kosev, yeah.
Okay, what's the Yud?
Written, given.
Okay, I'm not sure.
My soul have I written and given.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I gotta go back to that rabbi.
Fine. Okay. Good. Let me know. I'm always happy to
I
learn.
want him to show me.
Just one more question.
Okay. One more question. That's it. Okay. Good.
Verse 21 to 25.
Yeah.
Everything for a man and woman is basically written in a physical way. How a man and woman become. First of all, explain the part that he went to sleep and he took
One of his sides.
Yeah.
Remember.
That's one thing.
Okay.
That's one question.
Right.
The second question is that therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they shall become a flesh.
One flesh.
One flesh. They were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed.
Right. Okay. Right.
So
We
what
didn't do that
happens-
verse yet.
What happens to the spiritual life?
Right.
Let's say if I'm this certain way, my other half will be the certain way that I am? Is
No.
the same?
No.
And
Should
then-
be a female. That's the only thing we know.
And this is not to be ashamed when they are
Oh,
naked.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a
Can I
minute.
go naked outside?
Okay,
and
no,
not
good,
be ashamed?
no. So good. We'll get to that. I stopped before there because that's a whole nother discussion. Okay, number one, right? He took one of his sides and he fashioned and he filled the flesh in his place. Originally, man was created man, woman. Okay, it was two people together. Okay, man and wife were connected. They were one being, right? But man and woman were one. God then went and took the side of man, created her a separate identity for the man, and then brought her to man.
So there's nothing wrong with transgenders and things like that.
No. So all that stuff. No. So all that stuff, you have to look at it from a soul perspective. It means that, right? There's a male side, there's a female, the male side, and there's a female side. And the male side and the female side, you have a male and you have a female. God does not make mistakes. Okay? If you are created in a male body, and if you're not sure how to tell the difference between a male body and a female body, there are two doctors here that can speak up to class. They'll be happy to explain to you the difference between a male body and a female body. God kind of makes it pretty obvious. Okay? And so therefore at that point in time, right, so then one has a male, someone has a female. So by the way, there are people that are born with both.
Sides, yeah.
By the way, it's in Tractate Vikurim. Man, it's in the oral law talking about that. So that there's nothing new under the sun. It's all in the Torah.
Yeah, but if you got male parts, you're supposed to act
Like a male,
even
right?
if you feel like.
But
you're
that whole thing, and I don't want to get too much. I don't want to get into it. Just because I have a hard time even understanding when it says when you feel like it. Someone says I feel like a female.
Yeah.
Right. So does that mean I feel like what? Because I'll give you an example. We live in a world. Do men cry?
Yes.
No, but we live in a world where men don't cry. Women cry. Right. So if I feel like crying, I'm not saying right. As a little kid, you're taught guys don't cry. Suck it up and move on. Right? Just stop crying. Just suck it up and be a guy. Right? And so then you go ahead and you have, right? And yet, right, in the Tanakh, what did it say? What did King David used to do every night?
Try.
He would cry a couple of tears. King David, this mighty, mighty king of Israel.
Greatest warrior that ever lived.
Right. He would cry a couple of tears. So when somebody says, I feel this way, I'm not sure. I don't understand. There's no feeling that's female as opposed to male. Like that's why I have a hard time with that. But I don't want to go into that now. You have male, you have female. Right? And so that's what it says. And he took one of the sides and filled in this place. He separated two, made a male, made a female, and then brought them together. Then it says, therefore man shall leave his father and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. First he has to cling to his wife. Okay? How do you cling to your wife? Cling, so it means connect. Connection. Okay, connect, and that's what I said. It's connection of spiritually and emotionally. And after you're spiritually and emotionally connected, then you become one flesh, which is physical.
That's where the true love comes.
Right. That's through sex. Love comes before sex. No. I'm going to make it very, very clear. And I'll tell you, first comes love, then comes sex. We live in a world where people first comes sex, then comes love. That's a mistake. First comes love.
Then comes marriage.
Then comes marriage, and then comes sex. Right? Okay, right. It's a culmination of a spiritual and emotional bonding.
So I was focused on loving somebody.
Correct. Right. That's your job.
In life.
In life, that's exactly what it is. And that's how you go ahead and then you become one flesh. And the becoming one flesh is a culmination of you merging your two souls together. I'll tell you a beautiful idea. I was just at a wedding yesterday, so I shared it with somebody there. One of the most beautiful ideas, Rabbi Shippel, a friend of mine, told us over in the name of the commentaries, earlier commentaries. He said, beautiful idea. He says, why when a baby is born, isn't there a special blessing that we make? There's a blessing that we make. With a boy or girl, you make a shachyan or a tava meitiv, two blessings, but those two blessings are very generic blessings. Right? They're made on other things as well. So why when a baby's born, don't we make a special blessing?
Because they're takers at that moment.
So he says as follows. Very interesting. there is a blessing that's made when a baby is born. You know when to make that blessing?
For the Brit Milah.
No.
That's created.
Underneath the chuppah. Underneath the chuppah is where we make the blessing on the creation of a child.
Really?
Yep. You should know, if you take a look, there are 7 blessings made underneath the chuppah.
Yeah.
There are 2 blessings of Yotzer Ha'adam, the creator of Ha'adam, the man. And underneath the chuppah, when the child finally finds its other half, its other soulmate, that's when we make the blessing of Yotzer Ha'adam, the creator of man. And we say and we make the blessing twice. Why do we make it twice? Once for the physical side, and once for the spiritual side. And that's where we make the blessing, where our child is finally complete. When they stand underneath the chuppah with their other hand, then he's complete. And that's where that's where it goes in, and that's where the baby becomes one.
So the process of birth is a long process.
Right. The process of creating a child it comes complete underneath the chuppah. And that's where the 2 halves of the souls come together.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Right? Isn't that beautiful? I thought it was an unbelievable idea. And that's where we say to God, that's where the soul at that point in time becomes complete.
So how did the man go to sleep? Deep sleep?
God knocked him out. Anesthesia. What did you say?
Knockout drops.
Knockout drops, yeah.
Did they actually took a piece out?
Yeah, separated aside, sure.
He did a surgery that cannot be done today. It's like Siamese twins.
And it is under there. We Siamese twins to do the same thing. But that's what God did. Right? He put man to sleep. He took off the female physical side. And just like he took out the female physical side, he took out the female spiritual side. He took the female half of the soul. And he put the female soul into woman and the male soul into male. By the way, FYI, all males today have a piece of Adam's soul, of the male side. And all females have a piece of woman's side, of woman's soul. And our job is to take the piece of soul that we have and to perfect it and to make it perfect.
So what happens to the souls now after this?
After us,
No, what happens to the soul? No, this is the physical part.
Mary.
What happens to the soul part?
No, the soul part is very, very simple. We have our pieces of soul, right? Right? We all have a piece of our soul, and hopefully we perfect it.
So my mother and my father come together as one.
Right.
They create me.
Right.
They create a soul.
Mm-hmm.
My physical body is half them, half me, half my father, half my mother.
Correct. Your physical, half your father, half your mother, and the soul that you get is a male soul that was created by your father and your mother.
So how can my other soul, my other partner, my other soul,
Right. She was created by her parents.
looks
And-
the same like me?
No. Forget about the looks. That's your problem. I told you. Forget about the looks. Okay. Okay.
Crazy Michael.
Okay. Right. So, and she is created, and she is here in this world.
No, people say that I look at her eyes and I fall in love instantly.
That is
Does make
ridiculous.
sense?
That is ridiculous. Let me spell that for you. Ridiculous. There's no such thing as falling in love. The only thing you can do is you can fall in lust. You can't fall in love.
Lost it.
Okay? Love is by going ahead and learning to appreciate the goodness of somebody else.
So how do you find that?
Ooh. That's a good question. No, that's a good question. But remember, you only had one question. So I'm going to answer this and then I'm going to move on, okay? Because you asked me one question, you turned into 4, and then you asked me questions on the questions. I'm not such a smart guy, but I'm keeping track here a little bit, okay? Okay, so how do you find it? So let me tell you how you find it. You go to your rabbi, and you say, Rabbi, I want to get married. I'll tell you one way you don't find it, by the way. Let me just help you out, okay? You don't go to the local bar and find a girl that you think looks cute and think she's your soulmate. You know nothing about her. How could you be your soulmate Like, what are you retarded? You have to go to a bar to like to say, I'm going to pick on my soulmate. I'm going to tell her she's a good person or not. That's the wrong place to go to.
Rabbi, I beg to differ. We met in a bar.
Mel, I always knew you were different. But okay, maybe in your day and age, bars were a little more tame than they are today. I don't know. Okay, right? But going to the bar is not the most smartest place to go. For some people, that's all they have. Did you have a rabbi when you were that old? No. Okay, right, okay. No, don't say it. Remember, we don't talk. Okay, we don't want to talk Lashon Hara in the class. And it's all being recorded. We want that to happen. The answer is, I'm telling you the way which to me I find utterly ludicrous. Okay? I think going to a bar and trying to find your spouse there, like all you know about your spouse is they like to drink. That's not such an important quality. Okay? Okay, you want to go to a place, you want to first understand what you want, right? What are your values? Then you want to try to find the girls that shares your values. And that's how you can start the relationship. Okay, so you're better off coming to a Torah class if that's your values. Or at least you're interested in learning what your values are. Maybe she's learning what her values are, so it might not be a bad deal. Okay, right? But you go ahead and you want to create, right? You're looking for some common values. And then you want a common goals in life, what you want out of life. And once you find those things, then you could say, well, okay, then you have to go and you have to say, do I have chemistry with her? Okay, and then at that point in time, then you could go ahead and then you could come to the rabbi and you can ask him, and the rabbi will ask you, well, what are you going to give to her? And I can remember, marriage is all about giving. So you have to know what you want to give, even before you start going out and looking for people. You have to know what you want, what's important to you, make your list, and understand what's important to you, understand why you want to get married. Then you can start dating. But till you do that, don't date, because you'll never find the right person because you don't know what you're looking for. Right? If you don't know what you're looking for, you'll never find it.
I missed that part.
I know, Frank, that's very bad. You walked out the wrong time. Hold on.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
are we born with a character? Are we born with a personality?
Yes.
Already.
Okay. It's nurture versus nature, and the answer is yes.
To both.
To both. You're born with a certain nature, and our job is to enhance our good natures and to get rid of our bad natures. Okay, that's our jobs. And as we spoke about many times, it has to be fascinating. We as human beings are the only beings that are born that we are, if we were to be left alone, we would die.
Yeah.
Right? We are helpless. A baby deer is born within an hour, whatever, it's already running with the pack. Right? And all babies, right? Fish is born and come out swimming, knowing how to swim. Human beings, they would die. Why? Because God said, I'm going to teach you into becoming a taker. And then you're going to have to spend the rest of your life to forget how being a taker and to learn to become a giver. Right? When you're baby, you're 3 months old and you have a wet diaper and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and your mother just went to sleep. And you're wet, what do? You little selfless baby, what do? You cry. Mommy, I'm wet. Give your mother a break. She was up an hour ago. Would you let her get some sleep? I'm wet. The whole world revolves around me. Right? And as a baby, right? Now some people are still babies at 80. You know, that's the problem. Okay, right?
Let's go with.
Is that right? I was gonna say that. Thank you. Okay, right? Isn't it funny how much life how much life changes and still remains the same? Okay, and some reason, right? You have a little baby, everyone goo goes over them, and when they're 80 and there's the diapers, everyone says, "Oh, I can't stand them." It's a crazy world we live in, right? So what happens is that you go ahead, right? And so you're born as you're born taking, and now then you have to spend the rest of your life learning to get out of the taking, to learn to be a giver. And to learn to become godly. Right? That's what you need to do. Right? That's a piece where you need to get to. Yeah.
In ancient times, in fact, Aristotle recommended it. When a baby's born deformed or with a problem, they're supposed to expose the baby and let it die.
Mm-hmm. Greeks used to do that, by the way.
That
was the enlightened Greeks.
Yeah.
They used to have a pot at the front of the doorway that you could hear the baby crying, and the cries getting weaker and weaker until the baby died. Yeah, the enlightened people do that.
That was and the Romans also.
And these are people that we hold up, by the way, as our great philosophers and great thinkers. Yeah, right? And
listen, it took time for the Torah
to permeate the rest of the world, but the world is a sick world,
Yeah.
right? It's a doggy world. They were sophisticated two-legged animals. That's what they were, right? And that's what it is. It says okay, right? And so our job is to leave our father and mother, leave the relationship being a taker, cling to your wife, right? Cling to them, to go ahead and learn, right? To go become a giver, right? And they shall become one flesh, right? And then you go ahead and then it ultimately culminates in marriage, and where then you go ahead and you actually go ahead and have sex with them and bring the two physical bodies together, the two souls together, and become back to that one that God created.
So is that why man looks for woman?
No, so man looks for woman. It's actually because woman is considered his lost part. And so the way the world is, somebody who loses something, he goes looking for it. Therefore, it's a man's job to go find a woman. Now nowadays, some men are so thick they forget even to look. So women have to help them out a little bit. But that's right. But yes, that's the job. It's the job of the man to go find their wife, and not in the bar. There's one thing you're going to learn from tonight is if you're looking for a wife, don't look for her in the bar. Okay.
Unless it's the bar mitzvah.
Very good. Thank you. Well put. Okay, right. At the bar mitzvah, that's okay.
I didn't say I went to the bar looking for her. Putting words in my mouth.
I didn't put any words in your mouth. I'm trying to help you out. Okay.
Well, it didn't work out so good. 50 years.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I don't know how she put up with you. Gosh, Barbara, God bless you. Okay, right. So that's what it is. Okay, so therefore, so first I know what love is, right? What is love?
Giving.
That's how you get to love, by giving. What is love?
Action.
Giving.
Giving is how you get to love. By giving, the more you give to somebody, the more you love them.
Love is becoming one.
That was scary.
Love is learning to appreciate the good in somebody else.
But Rabbi, I also love my sister.
Correct. You should learn the good in her. I hope you love your parents.
I broke up with my sister because she married a non-Jew. Did I do the right thing or wrong thing?
It's very complicated.
Complicated.
Not simple.
Talk to the rabbi.
Yeah.
Class.
Right. After I take 2 Tylenol. No. There's no greater pain.
It's very painful.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. And I share your pain because I spent my whole life trying to deal with this. It's very. That's why I said it's a complicated thing. It's not a simple answer. Yeah.
You mentioned about for marriage that you need certain qualities. Sorry.
Right.
So, isn't it before chemistry? Isn't it important to share at least 2 interests in common?
And it said in what?
Interests.
Yeah, no. So interests are one.
Before the chemistry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Common goals. That's common goals. That's when I say common goals. Okay, I think your kids are looking for you.
So the love is appreciation of other person's qualities.
What?
So the love is appreciation of other person's.
No, it's learning to appreciate the good in somebody else. Now, we're supposed to do that in everyone. We're supposed to love our fellow Jews. What do you mean, love our fellow Jews?
Not easy sometimes.
No, they're the toughest people to love. And it's not the Jew, it's not the guy that's always so nice. It's the S.O., son of a gun. You know what I'm talking about? Right? We're commanded to love our fellow Jews. Why are we commanded to love them? Because God said every Jew by his essence was created with a beautiful soul. Go find the beauty in that soul.
Bernie Madoff?
No. Again. No. So they're people that do wicked things. Again, it's the same thing. Those people usually.
When we do a short circuit, we do big short circuits. The biggest short circuit was $7 billion.
Right.
He did $50 billion.
Right. And the miracle is they almost got all the money back. Fascinating.
I'm just going to use one example.
Okay.
You invite people to your house every week.
Yes.
The love you have toward these people and the love you have toward your wife, is it the same or is it different?
It's expressed in different ways. The bottom line is learning to appreciate every person, every human being for who they are. That's the same. Now, when it comes to my wife, so there's a whole total different love. I've known her for 26 25 years.
Don't get cocky.
Okay, 9 months. Okay, I won't get cocky. Okay, right. 3 days, yeah, 20 minutes. Yeah, in 20 minutes. Okay, right. So I married her exactly at like 7:30. So okay, so maybe like 1 hour and 47 minutes. Okay, whatever it is, right? But I spend the whole life giving to her, and now what you don't understand is the more you give to somebody, the more you love them.
You're also loving them more.
Right. So it feeds on itself, right? You kind of go ahead. It's almost cyclical. It kind of just gets deeper and deeper. The love that you begin to intertwine becomes even greater.
So there's no end to love.
Correct. And not only no end to love, the more you love somebody, the more it becomes, the greater it becomes. Because it's not a linear, it's exponential. Right? It goes greater and greater and greater and greater. Right? It's not just that it goes like this. It goes like this. Because when you have 2 times love, it's not 4. 2 times love is maybe 8. And you have 3 times love, it's not 9, it's 27. Right? And in a sense, it's an exponential growth. And that's a tremendous gift that God has given us. Right? And instead we're busy wasting and doing all sorts of stupid things. Right? But that's our job. Right?
Is longevity a requirement to get to this nirvana of love?
No, because of different things. But again, the more you give, the more you will love. So Mel already volunteered for us that he's been married 50 years. Right? 50 plus years.
Yeah,
right? And if I was to say to you, do you love Barbara now more or when you got married to her?
Well, wait, I didn't tell you. I was married 15 years to my first wife, 15 to my second, that's 30, and 20 to Barbara, that's 50 years. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Of course, 50 years to the one woman.
Right, to the one, it's amazing. It's amazing, right? So the love you have for her now, what you thought you loved her when you met her, is nothing, is a drop in the bucket. Right? Why? Because 50 years of giving to each other and having lives that intertwine, now now you have something that it's built on. Yeah. And so the love is you can't describe it, right? It becomes to a level. So it really comes, the more you do it, right, the more you love, the more you invest in that other person, the greater the love becomes. Right? That's what happens. That's how the world is built. Okay. Let's finish this.
That's the reason they look alike.
And it's actually fascinating. Yeah. Is when people, right, when they're married, it's actually, you find it almost with soulmates, right? That the more they begin to even look alike and sound alike, it's like they go, no, you're not going to look like Mel. Okay, but anyway, but that's what happens. Okay, so
About one question. So
this one question, but I got it. Like you guys, I'm gonna start taking recording this. I'm gonna go one question. Okay, right.
They're talking about the law of again. You see, but the rabbi in the Talmud say, love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Okay, who is your neighbor?
Oh, so very good. So it's very fascinating. I'll teach you something very interesting. The commandment to love your fellow Jew like yourself. There are 10 words in the Torah for neighbor. You know that.
For what?
For neighbor.
Oh, neighbor.
Right? There are 10 words in the Torah. And why are there 10 words in the Torah for it? Because anything that's of that importance, you have to go ahead. You have to make sure that you really know what you're talking about. So there's chaver, there's re'em, there's shachen. Right? How many words do we have for snow?
In Mexico, if you're Mexican,
and if you're American,
we have one.
Snow, sleet, ice, whatever. 3 words, slush, 4 words. If you ask an Eskimoian, right, how many words does Eskimos have for snow?
50.
20, yeah, I think 23. There's 23 words for snow. Why? Because when you're in Alaska, you're the king of snow, right? You know what I'm saying, right? You're a connoisseur in snow.
That's all you
got.
So
and not only you got. Your life will depend on what type of snow it is.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to know exactly what you're talking about.
So you got to be prepared.
And you got to be prepared. Okay, so right, so we Jews are experts in friends. Okay, because friends have many different meanings. The Hebrew word for love your fellow like yourself. What's the Hebrew word? V'yahavta l're'acha kamocha. You have to love your re'acha like yourself. What does the word re'acha mean? Says the Talmud. The word re'acha means re'im sheba mitzvos, means your friend in mitzvos. Means the commandment to love your fellow Jew is somebody who is striving to keep the commandments. If they're not striving to keep the commandments, okay, then at that point in time, there is no commandment to love them. God is saying when you meet somebody who is striving to become godly, right? You have to understand that and appreciate that that's who they are, and that's what it means. Love your fellow Jew like yourself, and it's not a carte blanche. You're born Jewish. If it's a wicked person, you have absolutely no commandment to love him. In fact, at that point in time, you're probably commanding to stay away from him. Right? So it's okay. Right? So it's going ahead and it's learning to go ahead and to be somebody who is committed, right, to that level of becoming a godly person.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
The righteous person who did the
who is striving for righteousness.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really what life is all about. So it's going to take Michael a few more, I don't know how long to figure this out. No, we're going to get this. No. Striving for right here. Okay. Right? Striving for righteousness. Right? That's what we're looking for. Right? That's what we want to do, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, let's do the last verse in chapter 2. So next week we can start in chapter 3. Chapter 3 is exciting. Okay. Okay, but chapter 2. Okay, Boris, we'll give somebody else a different chance to read this.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, at least have 2 people read today.
I'm
okay.
very happy.
Mel, why don't you read it?
25.
25.
They were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed.
Okay, good. So what does that mean?
They were a soul of the body, and therefore, when they looked upon each other, it was a beautiful thing.
Okay. Did they have clothes yet?
No.
How do you know they didn't have clothes yet?
They don't have a knowledge of good and bad.
That is incorrect.
God clothes them later.
Very good. God clothes them later at the end of chapter 3 again. Right? It's good to read the ending before you get to the beginning. Okay. Right? Because it says God goes and God makes them clothing, right? And that's when they get clothing. So what did they have?
You said last
Spiritual
time
eyes.
What?
they had a transparent skin like
So basically like the fingernail that we have like on our body.
Yeah.
So their whole body was covered sort of in this fingernail-like substance.
But it was flexible.
Flexible, right. Flexible, right, okay. Now, why weren't they embarrassed? Why weren't they ashamed?
Because they were souls.
Because they viewed the entire world and everything that they were as just something to use in the service of God.
They were holy then.
And they were, as we said, they were souls with a body, not bodies with a soul.
Right.
Okay, they had reached a level, or they were created in such a level, right, that they viewed the entire world through the prism of we're here to serve God. And everything that we have is just another vehicle, just another way to serve God. That was it. So just like they used their hands to hold a lulav and an esrog, or they used their hand to blow a shofar, right? Or they used their hand to make kiddush, every part of their body was there just to serve God. And therefore there's nothing to be ashamed of. Right? Because there was no part of their body was any different than any other part of their body. So what happened was every part and parcel of their body.
The body had
just had a covering on, right?
There was a covering.
Yeah, like nails. Like we have nails,
It was protecting.
right? We have fingernails, toenails.
So there was a second skin on top of
We have a second, right. It was a thicker skin. That's which is right, and that's when they realized they were naked, because as soon as they sinned, that came off.
Yes.
And right, and the only thing that they were left
They
with,
were ashamed because now they were.
because right, all of a sudden now they lost that their body became physical.
They became a
Right, means that you looked at them. Okay, if you looked at them, right, you went and you looked at Adam. If you know what you would see,
Spiritual life.
like a pinkish light floating.
you would see a light floating towards you. Right, because their souls were so shining, right, and so luminous. All you saw was a light.
Is that why a baby, when the baby is in the mother's stomach, there's a skin covering the baby and holding the baby?
Interesting. I don't know. That's an interesting idea. Right. So what happens was like this: when you saw them, when they come, you would see Adam and Eve coming towards you. You would see these two lights headed to your direction, because their souls would be shining out.
They'd be floating towards.
Right. As soon as they sinned, what happened?
They became man.
Their body became more physical, and all of a sudden their light was blocked. And that's what they were ashamed of. Is that they realized that their body had taken over their soul.
Yeah.
But this is how the Hashem wanted it.
Slow down. Hashem wants us to be a soul which has just
Didn't he want us to multiply?
yeah. So what does multiplying have anything to do with being ashamed?
Adam and Hava wouldn't be able to multiply if they were not separated.
No. So of course.
They didn't eat the apple.
No. What do you talk? Of course they could have. Actually, not only could they not. Actually, Cain and Abel were born in the Garden of Eden before they ate from the tree, and the hint it wasn't an apple.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So but Adam and Eve were born in the garden. They had children in the Garden of Eden before they sinned.
And birth was instantaneous.
Birth was instantaneous. There was no 9 months of pregnancy,
So the
And the
production
woman
was
did not.
and it wasn't red. And it wasn't painful, right?
guaranteed.
Yeah, every time. That's exactly what happened.
And they grew how fast? I mean,
They were babies, whatever. They were like
Then
I know little tadpoles in the cup. I'm not sure. I don't the details. I don't know how. Right? They were little. They came instantaneous.
It's a baby.
As babies. Adam and Eve were not created as babies. Adam and Eve were created as adults. Right?
But they had babies.
They had babies, sure. Right? So it means they were not embarrassed. Was that they were souls, right? And that's what they were. They kind of just like a sort of like a physical outline, kind of just like just containing what it was. But they were spiritual beings.
It's very hard.
Okay, you don't have to worry to become like that. You're okay. And it is hard to find a wife. I give you that.
No,
Talk to the rabbi.
it's hard to understand your own life. It's hard to understand where you come from, where you're ending up to, how to stay in touch, how to stay in control.
Very great.
How not to lose it.
Right? Absolutely. I agree with everything. Absolutely. But that's why God created you.
The hard work is because we need to work on ourselves. before
Correct.
we go on.
Correct. That's exactly
We're
what we
meant
do.
to be at the end of the story.
Right? We're meant to be the best that we can be. Be
So there is
all
no
that you
mistake.
can
He ate
be
the apple, there is
in
no
the
mistake.
army of God. Right? Okay, but God said not to eat it, so it was a mistake. God knew they were going to eat it. Okay? He knew he was going to eat it, but that's all. That's next week. Right now, right? They're put in the garden. They were created. Nothing to be embarrassed about. They were these two spiritual giants. Right? That's what they were. Spiritual giants. Right? Spiritual giants.
Good-looking spiritual giants.
Oh, they're not only good looking. They were perfect.
Yes.
Right? The Talmud actually says. The Talmud gives us a list of the 4 most beautiful women in the world, and it counts Sarah. It doesn't count Eve, right? Woman. And so Tosa says it says Sarah was one of the 4 most beautiful women, was like a monkey compared to how Eve looked. So the Talmud says
What? Yeah.
that she doesn't count. because
Why?
she was made by God. It's only counting people that are born out of a natural birth.
But do I have the right to look at my mother's naked?
No,
No.
no.
I came from
Not only that. Not even your father.
even they passed away. You're not supposed to look.
No. In fact, it's actually interesting because we're supposed to go to mikveh once a year.
Right.
Right. We're supposed to go to mikveh every Yom Kippur, and the day you get married. That's the second time we go there in the year. And so the question is, if you bring your child, right? How do you bring your son, right? If you have to go to the mikveh, right? Because a child is not allowed to see their parent undressing. Alrighty, folks. Let's everyone have a wonderful time. See you all same bat time, same bat station.